Zach, I don't understand. I'm reading this week's Parshat. I'm reading last week's Parshat. And I don't understand the character of Yaakov. We say he's the patriarch of MS. We say he's the stance. He's the fundamental leader for MS. Again, in last week's Parsha, that's not seem the case, and also in this week's Parsha, it doesn't seem to be the case. In last week's Parsha, we see Yaakov tricks Esau regarding the soup. He says he steals the birthright. Then we also see how Yaakov tricks Yitzchak, that he is Esau to get the bracha before him. And then also at the end of this week's Parsha, we see Yaakov trick Lavan when he doesn't tell him when he's leaving. And there's a quote in this week's Parsha where it calls Yaakov a Ramai. So how do we understand that Yaakov's doing all this tricking, Yaakov's doing all this sheker, one might say, yet he stands for MS?
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. And every morning we say, Titen MS Yaakov. We definitely do see Yaakov as this figure who represents MS. But I think it just depends on how we understand MS. Is MS just not tricking someone? Or is MS searching for some objective truth? For example, when Yaakov tricks Esau for the birthright, Yaakov is just thinking, I want Hashem to be served properly. I want the firstborn child of Yitzchak to be someone who can serve Hashem properly. Therefore, Yaakov sees Esau unfit to serve Hashem. Yaakov's not doing it for his own ego, or I'm the birthright, I'm the first son of Yitzchak. No, he wants to serve Hashem, and that's the truth. That's the other truth that he strives for, and that's why he gets the birthright from Esau. Secondly, by tricking Yitzchak, he just wants to receive the bracha so he can be the best possible Yaakov he can be. He's not doing any trickery. And then by Lavan, okay, but at the end of the day, Yaakov worked 14 years, and he barely should have even done 7. After 7 years were done, and he got the wrong wife when he got tricked by Lavan, he still just sat back and he saw what was best for the most shalom, the most peace in the world, and he sat back and he did 7 more years of work just to marry Rachel.
I think you're getting at a really deep point, a really key point, that MS isn't necessarily objective, yet is subjective, and that MS is more so doing the right thing than doing what is 100% true. But what still bothers me is that we have this concept of sita hayashar ve'atov, that you have to do a straight and arrow, meaning like you can't be deviating left and right. So like even though you're saying that, yeah, he's doing the right thing, how do we explain that by sita hayashar ve'atov? Surely that would imply that you have to be straight, and you can't even deviate deviating left or right to get to a greater goal.
So again, I think it comes to the fundamental distinction between MS in Shemayim and Eretz on earth. MS in Shemayim is objective, and what the Torah says is fundamentally MS. But in our world, there's multiple truths. Therefore, not deviating left and right, I think, is in reference to ultimate MS up in Shemayim. Meaning, don't deviate left and right from how you serve Hashem. I don't think it's saying don't deviate left and right at all. For example, when we're here in this land, we just need to see how we're able to serve Hashem. And if we do that by going a tiny bit around what society defines as truth, then maybe that's okay. Maybe that's what Yaakov's showing.
I think that's where you're right. And also, just to add on to that, there is this physics example where we prove with the train. I'm not entirely sure how it works, but I learned it last year. How when there's someone on a train, there's 2 doors that open at the same exact time. But someone on the outside of the train doesn't see those 2 doors open at the same exact time. Meaning they see one door open before the other. How can both of those things be true? They seem to be contradictory, and then we learn from that 2 things are able to be true. Meaning the fact that just based on different perspective, based on different situation, things are able to, that we think that might be a lie, is actually true. And then I think this leads into a greater question, a more broad question that we can ask in all the Avos and Imalos. We see that we see in last week's Parsha, a couple Parshas ago, Yitzchak stands for Gvura. Yet he seems to be such a passive God. Why? And we see this also with Rachel and Leah. They don't seem to be it's not so clear how they're such a great imam and how we're supposed to look up to them. And also with Yaakov, we say he stands for MS. But we have to, the only way you found out it's MS, that he does stand for MS, is by looking through the Pesukim and really analyzing and discussing how we reach that MS.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to really look at each week's Parsha, and we really have to understand what the goal is by saying that they're this way, and how that really uncovers their deeper meaning.
All right,